Thank you, Guy. Before I answer the question, I do want to touch on a comment that Mr. Miller made about going some time without a city manager. I'm not sure what he's referring to, but in our tenure, what happened was early on, Doug Selby decided that he wanted to retire. He retired, and he recommended to us that Mr. Dygert fill in as interim city manager. We interviewed him, and we thought that was a good fit. We went through a very diligent process, a nationwide search. We interviewed a number of candidates. One of them was Jeff Dygert, and he ultimately was the choice that we made. He's a proven leader, not only as a firefighter, as a fire chief, but as the city manager. He builds consensus. He's accessible to staff, to city council, to the public. He's very visible in the community. It is very difficult to run a city. The moving parts of this city on a day-to-day basis, unless you are directly involved, you do not understand. I did not understand until I got involved. He leads in a manner that is consistent with our priorities. We had a very public meeting where the 5 members of council presented our priorities to the city manager, and he relayed those to city staff. And that is how he is leading in conjunction with those. He is also very good at enabling his very professional and dedicated city staff to do the jobs that they're hired to do. And they do them in a very efficient, productive, and successful manner. He has had many key hires, and we've seen definite progress because of those hires. And I will say in my first term as city council, one of the things I'm proudest of is hiring Jeff Dygert. Thank you.
Mr. Burchard, Mr. Dygert, and his job.
Well, I haven't paid any attention to Mr. Dygert or the job that he's done. But what I will say is that the taxpayers of Auburn are paying money for stuff that they don't want. And like the back-end parking, that was one thing. Some people didn't want the parking lot thing with the Harriet Tubman home. They're just with the Equal Rights Center. There are just things that are being pushed on us that are not things that we voted for ever, and we never just kind of feel like it's just being all pushed upon us. So the taxes are going up under his leadership, and I don't see any stop to it. I don't see any stop in Auburn becoming so expensive that people just want to pack up and move out. People want to take their tax dollars and move to another area and provide tax dollars to another municipality instead of Auburn. Because though people are coming here and they're buying beer at our breweries or they're going to our stores and they're shopping, they're not living here. They're moving out. And these people are not staying in this town anymore. So what happens is because it's too expensive to be here and there's no businesses for people to be able to have a job that they can supply for their family, they got to drive to Syracuse or drive out of the city to be able to have a good job. I know there's there are some businesses that are downtown that people have lived at for 19 years, and I learned that at the other debate that there's a whole nother level to downtown. But overall, the city is falling apart. People are moving out of the city, and we have to lower taxes to make this a more affordable place to do business. Because you don't shop at a store that you can't afford. Why would you live in a city you can't afford either? Thanks.
Mr. Boyer.
Okay, I'm going to do a question for each kind of group. We got the incumbents and we got the challengers. For Mr. Giannatino and Ms. Carbajal, the question I'd like to frame to both of you is, we've heard a lot about the fact that City Council, the 4 councilors, and the mayor is all Democrats. And the issue of, do we need or will we benefit from having a voice from the other party or from a different party in the case of Mr. Burchard? Just to bring that, is there too much groupthink when you have all 5 from the same party? So if you both can address your thoughts on what you would say to a voter who has that on their mind.
Okay, before we get to that, just so that we're fair on this, if it's for the 2 incumbents, we'll let the incumbents speak, then we'll let the challengers each have a minute as a response, and if there's questions for the challengers, the incumbents can respond for a minute as well.
Okay. So you got 2 minutes to answer first.
So we're rotating around. It's Councilor Carbajal.
So I think that in my opening statement, I addressed this. So there's all kinds of diversity, and we are the most diverse city council ever. I am proud to be part of a city council that has 2 women on it. There are very few female voices anywhere. in government. So that's very important to me. I think that we have a diversity of ideas in that we bring diverse backgrounds to it. We are certainly all educated and we are all critical thinkers. We think hard around topics, and we ask the city staff to think hard and to do the critical thinking with regard to topics. So we spend a lot of time in sessions where we get presentations, we ask questions, we ask for things to change. Staff comes back to us with those changes. So there is plenty of conversation and diverse ideas in the mix. There are so many other ways that we are diverse. Certainly, we are all the same in that we are all very educated. We have the temperament to be leaders, and we have the background to be leaders for our city. I find that to just blanketly say that we're all from one political party is not fair to the voters, because the voters actually knew that we were all from the same political party when they voted us in 4 years ago, as well as when they returned our fellow city councilors Debbie McCormack and Terry Cuddy back to city council. So the voters know, and they have elected us, and they've spoken.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Genatino.
Thank you, Guy. I believe that the city residents benefit from dedicated, committed public servants, and that's what they have in the five of us. We have proven time and again that we love this city, we're committed to this city, and that we try our best to move this city along. Again, the voters put us there. And it was brought up about 5-0 votes. Yes, there are a lot of 5-0 votes, but they just don't simply happen that way. There are presentations to us on every topic that we vote on by our staff. There's very public discussion. A week goes by before we vote on those topics. The public has the opportunity to reach out to us, which they often do. We respond to them. We share that input with each other and publicly. We build consensus. That's what governing is. Simply voting no is not governing. A perfect example of building that consensus is the budget process. We start in January. It takes 5 to 6 months. We work with the staff. We take the public input. The public has every opportunity to contact us privately and to come speak publicly. And then we build consensus to vote for a budget that works for the city of Auburn and provides a path forward. So again, I think the people of Auburn would benefit from returning us to council and keeping that 5-0 majority. Thank you.
Okay. And now we'll have a minute each. Mr. LaCastro, then Mr. Bouchard, and then Mr. Miller.
As I said in my opening statement, the citizens in Auburn have so many concerns that fall on deaf ears. 5-0 votes and one-party appointed jobs are not healthy for government. City Hall needs balance, and I think it would benefit all the taxpayers to have somebody in there for balance.
Mr. Bouchard?
What we have now is an oligarchy. We have 5 people with all one way of thinking. We need to have the other side, the other view, the other way of looking at things. You can't just keep running a government all in one direction and think that without having the voice on the other side without having another voice on the other side or another way of thinking in the room, without people that aren't aware of the issues. Like, I know that it keeps being said that the public has every opportunity to come in there, but sometimes the public's at work and they're not going to be able to come into the room at the time that they're all discussing that issue. Like, they can't always be there at every time that these things are coming up. And I'm sure that, they could call into the office, but deaf ears are not going to help our city at all. We need to have both opinions to be able to look at, or a third opinion in my case. Oh, I'm very sorry.
Okay. Mr. Miller?
So I think the question was misunderstood. The question was about political diversity. Nobody is questioning the diversity of people that work in our city government. We can all be proud of the fact that we have different backgrounds and lifestyles and education levels, and I disagree that you have to be educated to work in government. The question here was of political diversity, And there is no political diversity currently in our city government. When every vote is 5-0, and yes, I understand that you work behind closed doors and you come to a consensus on this, but when there's little to no discussion and there is little to no education to the public of what is in fact going on, there is no political diversity. There is no diversity of thought there, and that is a serious problem in our city government.
Ms. Carbajal, you have 1 minute.
I disagree that there's no diversity of thought or that we act behind closed doors. We do not act behind closed doors on anything. Everything is open. We are fully invested in the open meetings law, and one of the parts of the open meetings law is that if you are 5-0, you cannot act in political caucus. So I just wanted to point that out. And the diversity of people on the city council is important. It is what you are saying is the only type of diversity is political diversity, and that simply is wrong. There's a diversity of opinion, diversity of people, ethnic diversity, diversity of just so much of it, and we have that to offer. We have a diversity of education and a diversity of professional careers.
Mr. Miller, Mr. Bouchard, Councilor Genatino. 1 minute each. Mr. Miller.
I didn't say that it was bad to have diversity of people. I said the question was not about the diversity of people. The question was the diversity of politics. I said we can be proud of our lifestyles and our ethnicities and our backgrounds. There's no problem with that. The question was political diversity. And you didn't answer the question when you talked about the differences of people, but not the politics, the difference in politics.
Mr. Bouchard.
That's exactly what I was going to say as well. I mean, the question was political diversity. She's talking about the differences of gender, the differences of where they come from, the differences of their ethnic background. But they could all be women, and they could all be Democrat, or they could all be men and they could all be Democrat, or they could all be Hispanic and they could all be Democrat. We're talking about them all being Democrats and all being 5-0 votes. That's a problem, not having someone else in the room. So we need to have somebody else in the room that can look at things from the other view, and that's all that we're saying, and that's what the voters are saying.
Mr. Genatino.
One thing that Mr. Miller said is there's a shortage of discussion on the issues. I don't often see him at city council meetings. I would invite him to start attending, because he would see that there is deep, detailed discussion on the issues. We ask countless questions. They're well thought out questions, and the discussion at times is very vigorous. I think this whole idea of focusing on just political affiliation is short-sighted on Mr. Miller's part. Yes, that was part of the question, and we answered that. But you can't just label us with our political affiliation. I think you have to take into account everything that we've accomplished, what we bring to the table, and what guides us. And I know what guides me is more than my political affiliation. Thank you.
Ms. Carbajal, Mr. Miller, and then we're going to go to Mr. Boyer because you may only get one more question.
Okay.
I just want to point out that historically, you've never had any problem with it all being men.
Mr. Miller.
So one of the good things about our city government is that for those of us who are not able to attend every single meeting, you can watch the live stream videos on the city's website. And just because I'm not sitting there physically doesn't mean I'm not watching.
Mr. Boyer.
Okay, and to the three challengers, the question I pose to you is none of you have experience in elected office. None of you have been there, seen day-to-day workings at City Hall. So to people who value experience, what do you say to those voters who would lean towards keeping the incumbents in place?
We'll start with Mr. Bouchard, Mr. Miller, Mr. LaCastro. I'm trying to keep this rotation going. Then you each get 2 minutes. Mr. Genatino, then Ms. Carbajal on the issue. You get 1 minute rebuttals. Mr. LaCastro on experience.
As I go door to door, I feel that I'm like the majority of the taxpayers in Auburn, which I can relate to all their issues. Yes, I don't have a lot of education. I've worked hard my whole life. I've worked hard for what I have. And like I said, when you go door to door, I'm in the same category as the people. They're just trying to survive to pay their taxes in Auburn and keep what they got. The issues are, I'll give you an issue. Not going to tell you the street. As me and my wife were walking down the street campaigning, there was a woman who had a handicapped child in her chair, in her wheelchair, and she couldn't even go down the sidewalks because the sidewalks were so bad. She stopped me and she said, "These are my issues." And like I said, I can relate to her issues because that's that.
Okay. Mr. Castro, Mr. Bouchard, on the issue of experience.
I have a lot of experience living in the city. I don't have any political experience, but everyone who's in political life had to be at that point at some point in time in their life. But I have a lot of experience of living in the city, and I have a lot of experience of watching doors get closed, businesses closed down, youth activities leaving. Like when I was a kid, there was a lot to do. There was Riva, there was the other roller skating rink, there was the billiard downtown, there were parks that were not falling apart. And I know that we're working on trying to get them all fixed up again, but leadership of this city has definitely let it fall apart. So, I mean, over the past 4 years, you guys have done a great job trying to get it fixed up and worked out, and I understand that. But the government of Auburn has been, the people and the citizens of Auburn have been let down by the government of Auburn. I've had a lot of experience in that, and I'd like to change that. That's why I'm asking for your vote November 5th.
Thank you, Mr. Bouchard. Mr. Miller, on the issue of experience.
So I don't think we necessarily have to gauge our candidates by years spent in public service, because, as I'm sure our local hero, Mr. Castro, will tell us, that you don't have to play in the game to know all the rules. An outsider can look at the game, whether it be politics or baseball, and they can have a basic understanding of what the rules are. But for me personally, yes, I don't have the years of public experience, but I've worked the last 11 years at Auburn Community Hospital. I've been privileged to work with many different types of people, different temperaments, working in teamwork situations, high-pressure situations, emergency situations, where we all have to work as one body to help save the life of another human being. I believe those skills of teamwork, of initiative, of taking charge when necessary are skills that I can bring to the table, as well as being asked to run different classrooms or programs at my church, organizing different events and outreach programs. I think all of those things could in some way be considered customer service, and I think those skills will help me to listen to what the voters do want and do my best to quickly and legally enact them.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Mr. Giannatino, you have 1 minute on the issue of experience.
Yeah, when you take public office, you quickly realize that you have a lot to learn. And I think that is true for everyone. I know that it was a wake-up call for me the first time I went to a council meeting. And one of the things I did, not only while running for office, but while I've been on council, is to make myself very accessible to all the departments. I visit the departments every year. I ride along with the police department, the fire department. And this year I rode along with the sanitation department. I actually threw trash. The reason I do that is so I understand what our city staff is up against and the problems that they face. So, yes, you're right. You do lack experience when you first get there, but it's up to you to educate yourself in the process, and I feel that I've done that. Thank you.
Councilor Carvajal, on the issue of experience, you have 1 minute.
So experience matters. So the ability to critically think around a subject has to do directly with the knowledge base that you have. It also has your ability to research and find out answers with regard to any topic. When we came onto the city council, we had to hit the floor running. We had some very interesting things happen to us. I think that my experiences with the school board and the governance of the school district helped me along that process. So having that governance experience and coming in lessened my learning curve. I do remember coming onto the school board and having a huge learning curve, the learning curve that Jimmy spoke of. I think that that helped helped us. An understanding of management, an understanding of the role of governance is very, very important. So again, those critical thinking skills, that education, that knowledge base is important.
All right. Thank you. Believe it or not, you're done with questions. An hour and 20 minutes goes very quickly. For our last 10, we're going to deal with our closing statements. Again, as we said at the beginning, this was done by draw. We're going to hear from Adam Miller first. He's on the Republican, Conservative, and Independent lines. You have 2 minutes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you again to Cuba Community College, the staff here, the students. Thank you, Mr. Boyer and Mr. Cosentino. As I said in my opening statements, I'm running this year because I'm not satisfied with the direction that we're going. We've heard steady leadership and progress, and I feel that that progress is in the wrong direction. We're seeing a lack of representation. We're seeing the voice of the people stifled or ignored completely. We're seeing priorities of our wants over our needs. We're seeing higher taxes, and we're seeing out of control spending. I don't claim to have the answers for everything. I know that we have a staff of people in the city government that work on different areas, and they work in different topics. And I would want to work with each and every one of them to find out what works best for our small town that goes with what the voice of the people want. More than anything else, what I'm concerned with is making sure that the people of the city of Auburn have a voice. Bringing in those jobs, bringing in that increased tax base, bringing families here to live, to work, and making Auburn a place that we all can be proud of, a place that we can make history in history's hometown so that future generations can be proud of the history that we are leaving them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. We'll now hear from Justin Bouchard, who's on the Libertarian line. Sir, you have 2 minutes.
Thanks again for hosting us tonight, Mr. Cosentino, Mr. Boyer, the Cuba Community College students, and thanks for all the people that are watching us tonight. A lot has been discussed here tonight, and we're just asking for your vote as far as who you think is going to be able to provide the best solutions to the problems that our city is facing. I don't think that higher taxes and taking more of your money and making more of the decisions that happen in your family is the solution that you want to see. I believe that in the end, you want to be able to have money for you and your family. I believe in the end, you want to be able to have youth activities for you and your family. I believe that in the end, you want to be heard. And so the reason I'm running is to advocate for you. I'm running so that way we can get our city back to a family-friendly, affordable place to live. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bouchard. We'll now hear from Councilor Jimmy Genatino, who's seeking re-election. He's on the Democratic Working Families Party and Auburn Party lines. Sir.
Thank you, Guy. I'd like to again thank everyone involved for making today's debate possible. I believe elected office is an honorable service, and it has been my good fortune to serve the people of Auburn and to represent our city for the past 4 years. While most facets of our society have become digital and impersonal, elected office and campaigning is still very upfront and personal. It's one of the things I love about being on city council. During my time on council, I've made myself accessible to not only my constituents, but to the men and women who work tirelessly throughout the city organization to provide the people of Auburn with the essential services they rely upon. I believe accessibility to public officials is key to effective governance, and I am proud of my record. As I did the first time I ran for office, in my bid to earn another term, I have walked countless city streets, and I've knocked on thousands of doors. It has been my pleasure catching up with people I know, while at the same time meeting new people. Time and time again, I've encountered fellow Auburnians who love the city and are appreciative of the work that we have done and the way we have represented them. This is truly rewarding. Several weeks ago, while going door to door, I encountered a constituent who was standing on her porch. She told me that she saw me knocking on doors across the street and was hoping that I was going to stop by. I instinctively asked her if there was an issue that she wanted to discuss or something that she needed help with. She quickly responded no and went on to say that I came to her house 4 years ago, that she voted for me, and that I had not let her down. It was at that moment that I realized hard work pays off and that asking the people of Auburn for another term was the right thing to do. Every time I walk through the front doors of City Hall and every time the gavel comes down, I am filled with not only a sense of pride but sincere gratitude that I have had the opportunity and pleasure to serve as your city councilor. Local government matters. The decisions we make directly affect the quality of life for those we represent. Therefore, it is imperative that local elected officials are people of integrity, to possess a calm demeanor and the ability to build consensus. That is how the current council has carried itself for the past 4 years, providing steady leadership, making progress for Auburn. I thank you for your time, and I ask you for your vote on November 5th. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Giannatino. We'll now hear from Dia Carvajal, who's seeking re-election. She's on the Democratic Working Families Party and Auburn Party lines. Counselor.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the people of the city of Auburn for trusting me to represent them for the past 4 years. It's been a great honor to serve the city that I am so proud of. We have accomplished much in the last 4 years, and I look forward to serving for another 4 years. The future is shining bright in Auburn, New York. I believe my experience has more than adequately prepared me to take the role of city councilor again. My credentials are: I have been elected to serve twice for the Auburn Enlarged City School District Board of Education and to the City Council for the Auburn, New York. I'm a professor of mathematics and computer science at Cayuga Community College. I have been involved in many civic organizations, and I have served on many nonprofit boards. My core values include seeking out social justice and equality for all, supporting working families and labor organizations, economic development through arts and culture, and helping to elect and support other women to run and be successful in public office. I look forward to watching the growth of the Equal Rights Heritage Center. I can't wait to see how $10 million of Downtown Revitalization Initiative money will transform downtown Auburn. I will continue to support staff and colleagues while they watch over the water supply. I will further support Falcon Park, Casey Park, Hoops Park, Clifford Park as the treasured community gathering places that they are, while continuing to work on other playgrounds and parks. I am proud of the millions of dollars in investment that have improved our city streets, bridges, water, and road infrastructure. I humbly ask you to trust me again. Please vote for me, Dia Carvajal. I am filled with gratitude for your continued support.
Thank you, Counselor. We'll now hear finally from Tim LaCastro, who's on the Republican, Conservative, and Independent lines. Mr. LaCastro.
Thank you for listening to my views. If elected, I will take the taxpayers' concerns seriously. When an issue is brought to my attention, I will ask questions to the proper departments, investigate, use common sense, and follow up on your concerns. I will question spending and borrowing decisions so Auburn can be a more affordable place for all to live. Like I stated earlier, I'm not a politician. I do not owe anybody anything except the people that elect me. I respectfully ask for your vote on upcoming election days. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you all five for joining us today and sharing your views. It's not always easy to be out there on the campaign trail. We wish you well in the next 2 weeks. We'd also thank Mr. Boyer for his thoughtful questions as usual. We'd also like to thank you, the voters, for listening to the candidates for Auburn City Council who have literally put themselves out there and their families during this campaign. We do remind you, you can go out and vote on November 5th, but also remember that early voting starts this Saturday, October 26th. In the city of Auburn, it's at Clifford Field, or depending on your age, the Y Field. We'll return this Thursday with the one sole county-wide race, that for County District Attorney, with incumbent John Boodleman and challenger Thomas Turturro. Next Tuesday, we will finish our series of forums here at the college with the three-way race for the mayor of the city of Auburn, with incumbent Michael D. Quill, Republican Timothy C. Lattimore, and Libertarian Brett Tracy. Because of the number of forums that we have, you can go on auburnpub.com and watch them, or you can look at the college's YouTube channel to view them as well. The Auburn Regional Media Access, ARMA, will be running this forum this Saturday and Sunday on Spectrum Channels 12 and 98 and FiOS 31 starting at 5 p.m., and the college's radio station, WDWN, at 89.1. We will air them on Saturday at 10 a.m. I'm Guy Cosentino for Cayuga Community College. I want to thank you for watching. Have a good night. Have a great tomorrow, and we look forward to seeing you back here on Thursday for the DA's race.